want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
We are the Madmen of Masculinity.
Your home for healthy masculinity. We're just real men having real conversations for you.
Good day, Madmen Mafia.
I am Kirk M. Samuels.
And I am still Jason B. Kendrick.
And we are the Madmen of Masculinity.
That's right. We're just real men having real conversations for you.
Real
Let's talk
stuff,
about
man.
freedom today, folks.
Real talk, man. My favorite movie, or at least one of my favorite movies, is Braveheart.
Mm-hmm.
That is my jam. I don't know. I like all the different parts of the movie. But the line above all lines, besides "you can't handle the truth," for me, one of the best movie lines out there is, "They may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom."
It's deep.
Boom,
Deep.
dude. And here in America, every year, in the middle of the year, July 4th, we celebrate Independence Day and we blow stuff up.
Yeah, that's how we do it. Redneck
We
style.
just
Blow it
set
up.
fire and blow stuff up, man. That's what we do. We cook hot dogs
Yep.
and we blow stuff up. That's what we do, man, on 4th of July to celebrate freedom. That's one of the foundations of America, one of the foundations of our culture, in theory, anyway. One of the foundations of who we are as Americans, as a country. The longest surviving continuous government in the world. Um, and one of our pillars is the whole idea of freedom, man. What you think about freedom?
Yeah, I think freedom is one of those things that's just necessary for human beings. I mean, men especially, but it's just something that we need to feel like we're free. I know for myself, it's one of those things. If I don't feel like I'm free, if I feel like I'm being manipulated, if I feel like I'm stuck, if I feel like I'm trapped, it makes me go a little nuts. And I think a lot of other men can relate to that. That if you don't feel like you have some sort of freedom, if you don't feel like you have some sort of control or onus over your life and some power to make changes and to create the things you want, then you don't
Mhm.
feel free. And that lack of feeling of freedom can cause stress, anxiety, depression. Can, a lot of guys take themselves out because they don't feel free because of debt and bills and child support and all these different things that they deal with as a man. And especially here in America in the West, they deal with that stuff. They don't feel free, they feel trapped, they feel stuck, and then it leads to a lot of problems on down the road.
Yeah, I think that's one of our. I don't know what came first, the chicken or the egg. I don't know if it's because the country we grew up in, at least in the West, um, Western civilization, Western culture, whatever you want to call it. But I don't know if it's that or just men, period. But there's something about us, I think, that, man, if we don't feel free, I mean, yeah, we do become like the animal that's caged, and there's something about, at least most of the men I know, and most of the men I know, almost all the men I know are in America. Um, that's just one of the things that's part of our culture, man. And so, and I think it's worth digging into, either what is that or why is that in terms of who we are as a people.
Yeah, I think, a lot of times it comes down to psychology of freedom. As long as a man feels free, whether he works 50 hours a week or 100 hours a week running his own business or he's climbing the corporate ladder, as long as he feels like he's free and he's in control and he's the one making the decisions for his life, I think he can put up with just about anything. It's that feeling and that, you know, perception of freedom is really the big thing. And I mean, we tell the ladies all the time, we talk a lot about dating. If you don't allow your man to feel free, like, we use the dog analogy a lot, but it's true. Let that man run to the end of his leash so he feels a bit free, and then he'll come back happy, tail wagging, and do whatever. But when you keep yanking the leash, keep yanking that man back, you don't let him go play golf. You don't let him go out in the woods and hunt with his buddies. You don't let him go out there and feel like he's free and has some, I don't remember where that word went. Anyway, if he doesn't feel like he's free, then it's going to cause a whole lot of problems. So on the dating side, on the business side, and just the happiness side, man, I mean, freedom is a core value, a foundational thing.
Maybe that word was autonomy.
That's what it was. That's what it was.
I had a
Thank you.
feeling. I had a feeling that's where you're gonna go, man. I just, it's just something about it. I mean, that's what
You
happens
stole
when
that
you
word out of
have.
my head. That's what happened.
That's what happens when you have hundreds of conversations over the years between two. You gotta know what you're thinking. Uh, but um, but yeah, when for us to have some level of autonomy, and at some point when we, later on in this conversation, I want to actually dig into kind of some ironies in our culture about free. Like, are we really free in our culture?
Yeah.
Are we, we might value that, but are we really that? And so I'm curious about that, as we kind of dig into this thing a little bit. But I do notice that, man, there's just something about, the oppressive nature of not having autonomy as a man, not feeling like you're, in charge of your destiny. I got the poem Invictus up on my wall over here, and the poem is by William Ernest Henley, and the very end of it, it says, "I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul." And when you're not the captain of your soul, when you're not the master of your fate, or at least feeling like you're pursuing that whole thing, you just feel like less than, man. You just feel like less than in terms of your identity, in terms of your capacity, in terms of who you are as a person, who you even want to be, who you strive to be. It's like, why even try if there's no chance of living that out, if there's no chance of being that thing. It can be like an airplane trying to stall, or an airplane stalling when it just can't climb anymore, and it can be the glass ceiling. But when we don't have that feeling of freedom in our lives, man, it's oppressive. And yeah, it's enough for a lot of the guys to just check out, man, and just say, you know what, why is it even worth it if it ain't going to possibly have an opportunity to change?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the gist of my first two books was, because we grow up in this victim mindset, and it's just put on us, and we're victims of society, we're victim of our parents, we're victims of this, that, and the other thing, you know, and as a man, if you feel like a victim, you don't have that ingrained freedom. You don't have that autonomy that you're like, okay, I'm free, I'm good. You feel like a victim, then, and when we feel like a victim, we don't feel like we have any power to change it. And I think a lot of the reasons we are trained to be victims, quote unquote, is so that we don't feel like we have any power. We don't feel like we have any mastery over our lives. We don't feel like we have any autonomy to change our lives. And so, I mean, I went through that process myself of looking at my life like, okay, whether I believe it or not, whether I want to admit it or not, at some level, I probably chose all this. Maybe on the spiritual side, maybe me and God were sitting there like, all right, what mess can I get into this time? What's my choose my own adventure game? Let me choose this, that, and the other thing. Put these ingredients together to create this challenging adventure. And when I think of it that way, whether it's true or not, it makes me feel like I have some power. It makes me feel like I have some choice in the matter. And so we as men, especially, need to change our mindset from victim to empowerment. We need to change our mindset, like, because we've both had fathers that maybe we didn't want, or we would have rather they were different, or it could have been better or done something different. But at a certain age, you got to realize you're not a victim of that man anymore. You're an adult now. Now you have to take ownership and take your power back and make those changes for yourself so that you can be the grown man. You can be the version of yourself you want to be. And there's a freedom in that. With that whole taking responsibility thing, there's a freedom to that, because when you're responsible for your choices, when you're responsible for your life, you gain that freedom and that self-respect that comes with it. So I would say, especially for men, and especially nowadays, you got to change your mindset so that you know that whatever you're choosing, you're choosing. You got to take responsibility for your choices, and then if you don't like them, change them, shift.
Mm, yeah. We give away. I I don't know. I don't know what percentage of time, all that kind of stuff, but I can tell you one thing I know from my life is, man, we give away our freedom. Like, we have more agency over our freedom than I think we live out in our lives. And that agency over freedom is that thing that is almost a currency, and we give that thing away, man. We give that thing away. Um, you know, I almost want to say willingly, maybe subconsciously, maybe ignorantly, but still willingly. When I play golf and the ball goes way over there, I'm the one that hit the ball, right? I'm the one that swung the club. There was something that I did. I had all the ability to, at least on a par three and maybe some par fours, to get it in the hole with one swing. But there was something that I did that made it go left, or made it go right, or made it go behind me sometimes. Um, but in any case, I had some impact in that, man. I gave that thing away, and so I'm the more I really connect the dots as we talk here, the more I'm wondering, and I don't think we got time to completely jump off into it now, but there's got to be some connection between my level of freedom and the quality of my choices.
Mm. Yeah, I mean,
Hmm.
all personal development, all this work we do, and I think for a lot of guys, especially when you get into acknowledging nice guy syndrome, get into acknowledging that you might be there, and seeing how you give away your freedom by trying to be nice, by not setting boundaries, by not being the one making choices and leading, and being the masculine influence in your relationships or in your business or in your life. We give a lot of that autonomy, a lot of our freedom away, and it's a matter of taking it back. But like to your point, taking it back means responsibility, and taking responsibility for all your choices. Yeah, that butt might be fine, but you still chose it. She might be cray cray, but you still chose it. That business may be killing you, but it's paying the bills. Well, you still chose it, and you have the
Yeah.
opportunity to re-choose, make another choice, or maybe create your own business, do something else
Hmm.
to set yourself more free.
And I'll throw myself under the bus and say, man, I invested into child support for 22 years of my 52 years of life. And I can't blame anybody for that. Like, I can't, one day I'm gonna sit back and I'm gonna do the math and figure out how much that was, probably ballpark.
You're gonna do that to yourself.
I know I shudder to even think, but in any case, um, I got nobody to blame for that, man. I don't. There were some things that happened to me in life that weren't my doing. There were some things that happened in life that I did not have agency over, in terms of consequences and things that were done, I'll say, to me. Um, but in a whole lot of cases, man, in that case, we're talking financial, man. Had I had that same amount of money to do, man, you tripping, dude. Man, I'd have a whole lot of money in the bank right now. And so,
Mhm.
yeah, there's got to be a time. Maybe when we come back, we'll talk about the connection between freedom and choices, man. Maybe we'll do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's all connected. You can't have one without the other. It's like everything is a blessing is a curse. All your freedom comes with responsibility, and that's just comes down to the choices you make. And speaking of choices, we're gonna choose to
Yeah,
take this break. We are the
that's right.
Madmen of Masculinity. You're listening to us on
Mhm.
KLDC 1220 AM in the Mile High City, and we'll be right back.
Man, one of
Seriously.
these days I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that math, man. Hey, if you're watching this, by the way, seriously, like, it don't cost nothing if you're watching us on. And this is us recording. If you don't, this is the first time tuning in. We are recording audio for our over-the-air radio show here in Denver, KLDC 1220 AM, Wednesdays 6 p.m., Saturdays 8 a.m. And so we don't know if this is recording the live or living the recording, but whatever. Either
Yes.
way, chicken or the egg. We're doing our thing. Hit like and subscribe, man. What do you think? I mean, we really want to. I'd love to hear people's conversations, man. When you post these little clips, like on TikTok or Reels or anything like that, it's funny to hear people chiming in and get
Yeah.
into it. And sometimes, at least depending on the mood I'm in, I'll just tell somebody, "Child, please shut up." I like getting into it, folks. So we like to hear
Yeah.
conversations, but we like to hear what people think, man. So comment.
Yeah. If you're
Let us know what you think.
Yeah, if you catch us on YouTube or you catch us on TikTok or Instagram, and you don't like what we're saying, you love what we're saying, let us know. We take the
Yeah.
smoke, we take the heat, we take the love, we take all of that.
Yeah.
That's
This
what
is
we're here
just two
for.
men's opinions.
Yes.
Let's roll.
All right.
Your boys are back.
We're back.
Your boys are back.
We're
We
back in
are
town.
the Madmen of Masculinity, KLDC 12:20 a.m. in the Mile High City on the interwebs, everywhere.
Everywhere. We doing this thing, man.
MadmenRadio.com.
Yes,
Reach out to
sir.
your boys, man. I got at least a couple of listeners that people that I don't know, never met, that just heard us somewhere and just texted me. And now, I'm texting folks across the country that I don't even know, man, but just, hey, what's
Nice.
up? Just checking in on life. I was working out this morning and a guy was texting me you know, how I overcame this and overcame that and how I deal with this and deal with that. We got into a great conversation, man. And so, we are
Nice.
not above responding to folks and being in touch with folks, even if it's
Yeah,
directly. So
and I want to apologize all day. I watch it. I got the RBF. You can text me too. I'll be nice. I
yeah,
know I look mean. I know I look sour, but I'll be nice on the
yeah.
text message. You can text me too.
It's it's funny, man. You posted that picture of you at Toastmasters, man, looking like a
Man,
little
that thing was
kid.
old. Yeah.
He looked like a
All right. That was like what,
little skater punk.
2016 maybe? 2016,
Wow.
2017. Wasn't that long ago, but still, I'm
Oh
getting
yeah.
the mirror has changed on me, man. Somebody doing something to the mirror, man. I got one of them funhouse mirrors,
It
man. It
it
ain't
might
me.
have only been one time around that mountain, but that's a big mountain, man. That's a big lat. It was way different, man. We talking
You-
about
Freedom.
freedom. We talking about freedom and men, freedom and masculinity. What does it mean to a lot of men? All those kinds of things, man. As you were talking a bunch in the last segment, it really hit me that like I said, the level of our freedom has a lot to do with the quality of our choices in life. You can make a lot of dumb choices or just choices, period. But definitely dumb choices that can land you in some hot places and you lose a lot of your freedoms, whether it's, freedoms in jail, whether it's financial freedom, whether it's, freedom of your will, whether it's, addictions, all those kinds of things, man. But the choices that we make in life have a lot to do with our level of freedom. And so we need to guard those choices wisely.
Yeah, I mean, I love what you tell your son. I mean, don't get anybody knocked up, don't get locked up. I mean, those are two main choices. And I think as many men, a lot of times, especially when we don't have that father figure, we don't have the healthy father figure around to be like, hey, these are the choices that mean something. Like, pay attention to this. Like, don't do
Yeah.
anything dumb, don't do anything stupid and go to jail. Don't do anything dumb and don't do anything stupid and get a girl knocked up before you're ready. Don't do anything dumb, don't do anything stupid that's going to cost you your wallet, your paycheck, your time, your freedom. All of our choices have consequences. And yeah, sometimes the best choices suck, but you're doing it for the delayed gratification. You're doing it for the future. You're doing it for your progeny. You're doing it for your kids. You're doing it for your future, your family's future, the future of the world. Every man has choices. We need to stop and think and, take a deep breath, count to 10, because I know a lot of, especially young men, we're very reactionary. It's all that testosterone. And, I didn't like the way he looked at me. And next thing you know, you in a fight, then you're in jail for 5 years. You know how you got there. We always have to be responsible for our choices. And a lot of these younger generations I'm seeing nowadays don't seem to be very responsible, or they didn't get the education to think about their choices, because those choices will lead directly to your freedom or lack thereof.
To your point, I told my son specifically, and this would be my advice to any young male out there, whether you're a teenager in your early 20s, etc., or just period. Like I told him, don't get locked up and don't get nobody knocked up. Um, those two things can alter the direction of your life tremendously. Those two choices. And, you get locked up, and I mean, your freedom is taken. Your literal freedom is taken. Your freedom, your ability to choose what time you wake up, what time you go to bed, who you living with. Incarceration, is no way for a human to live. And I don't know anybody who's ever been incarcerated that said they were better incarcerated than they were free, or that they would choose one or the other. So, it's one of the things. If you mess around and get a felony, guess what? You can't even vote no more for the rest of your life. So you're not even, a voting American. You don't even have a say so in terms of who makes the choices for your freedom in our government officials. So, those kind of things. And then in terms of, I told them, don't get nobody knocked up. Like, dude, that one pump will get you. That last pump, well, 18 years, I mean, that last pump it might only be a split second, but it'll
Mhm.
never be 18 years. And that split second will cost you 18 years, man. And so don't, a lot of men have been there, man. I'm telling you, that last pump will get you. You think, oh, let me just get one more. And that one more is the one that, that'll have you hitting the dough, man. And so
Yeah, he's speaking from
I'm
experience,
telling
y'all.
you, been there, done that. So, but the point is, you know, the choices, man. The if you, I mean, if you find a woman, y'all together, you're doing your thing, maybe you get married, all those other kind of things, and you want to ready to have kids. I'm not against having kids. I'm against getting somebody knocked up. There's a big difference, a huge difference in just getting somebody pregnant. I mean, that's a oops kind of thing. And then, you know, little kids can be blessings. From a man perspective, your financial capacity is going to be limited. It just is. For probably the rest of your life, you're gonna have financial obligations in the earliest years. That those same financial obligations will take you away from investing financially into yourself and into your future. And so, again, choices and freedom. Choices have consequences, and a lot of times bad choices have negative consequences in terms of your freedom.
Yeah, I mean, especially for men nowadays, there's a lot of us that kind of go along, get along. A lot of that nice guy syndrome stuff. We're just trying to be people pleasers, and we just give up our freedom. We give up our autonomy. We give up our choices to someone else or something else. And then later on down the road, we're like, "What happened? I didn't choose this. It just chose me." It's like, well, you made choices or you gave your choices away. And for a lot of us, we got to get to that point of I don't care what other people think. This is what's important to me. I need to do what I need to do because we're all gonna have haters. We're out here doing our best. We're not doing stupid human tricks on YouTube like most people, so we don't have a million followers yet. But we get haters too. Every time we make a
Mhm.
point, every time we say something about, one gender or the other, we hear about it. And so it comes to a point where if you want to have freedom of choice, you want to have freedom of your heart and soul, of your mind, there are certain choices and certain boundaries and certain things you need to be aware of and know that everything comes with a cost. Everything's going to come with haters, especially nowadays, because a lot of people are miserable and want to spread that misery everywhere. So you just have to be willing to take it. So many nice guys, and I was one of them, get so caught up in what other people think, and I just want everybody to like me. Well, having everybody like you is going to make you spineless and Walter Milk Toast or whatever it is, where you have no spine, you bend over backwards for everybody else, and then you wonder where your autonomy went, you wonder where your freedom went, you wonder where your choices went. Well, you gave them away by trying to please everybody. Sometimes your enemy can be your best friend. It can be the motivation to your career. It can be the motivation to your dreams by having somebody that is working against you or somebody that you're competing against, especially as a man. So sometimes your freedom will come with resistance. Actually, not
Mhm.
sometimes, all the time, your freedom's going to come with resistance. You have to be willing to set that foundation and stand strong as a man. And like, this is my path. This is my purpose. This is the direction I'm going. You can come along or you can get out of the way. Those are your two choices. But I'm doing my thing because this is what's important to me. And that's how you generate and gain your own freedom from the rest of the world.
Yeah. When you talk about giving away your freedom, for a lot of men, that happens when you follow along. When you just, to your point, be a yes man, and when you not even necessarily follow along. This doesn't have anything to do with men or women, male or female. Not even being a yes man to women, but just even being a yes man to men to other guys in terms of, hey man, let's go do this, or we're gonna do this, or I'm gonna follow this trend or follow whatever. Man, that's how you give away your freedom. I do a lot of work in the addiction world, in the addiction community, part of addiction circles and addiction organizations and ministries and those sorts of things. And, to a person, to every single one of the guys, there was a moment where they didn't say no. They gave away their freedom. They tried it for the first time. There's always a first time. There's always a first time they took a hit, always the first time they took a bump, always the first time they took a sip. There's always a first time that, probably with other people around, it probably involves some group of people in some place where somebody offered them something and they decided, yeah, I'll try it, and next thing they're in the depths of addiction because you tried something. You weren't able to say no. You weren't able to maintain your level of freedom. And so, to give that away, man, is a tragedy. And that even from a society perspective, man, to give it away, it's a tragedy, man. And freedom is not easily attained, and I don't think it's easily kept either. I don't think it's easily attained or easily maintained.
Yeah, I think freedom a lot of times comes along with even the notion of respect or self-respect. It takes a
Yeah.
long time to get it, and it only takes a moment and a bad decision to lose it. And so your freedom's the same way. Like, oh, I just had that one extra drink. I'm gonna drive home. I'm fine. And the cops tell you otherwise. Next, you know, you're 10 grand in debt, and then you got no license and a record and everything else. So it's a matter of being strong enough and strong-willed enough as a man to resist the peer pressure, to resist those things. I mean, I'm what, about 9 months sober now, coming off about 20 years of being a pretty much uh, functioning alcoholic. And there comes a point where you just have to decide for yourself, like, I'm not doing that anymore. And no matter what anybody else says, no matter, that's fine for them. More power to you. God bless you. Go do your thing. I'm not. And you have to have that. You have to make that choice for yourself. You got to make that choice for your family. You got to make that choice for your foundation and your own freedom. Because if you don't, those things will take away your freedom. They will ruin your life. They will run your life. And then you end up someplace you don't want to be, in some dark hole, and you wonder how I got there. Well, you didn't stand your ground. You didn't stand up and have a backbone and say, no, that's not for me. So many of us get caught up in peer pressure, and the next thing we know, we're in jail, we're in a dark hole somewhere, and we didn't even know how we got there. Because we said yes to the wrong person, to the wrong thing. You have to know yourself, and that's the biggest thing when it comes to freedom and personal responsibility is know thyself. Know yourself. There's some people out there who know they got addictive personality, so they say no to those things. They know that they shouldn't be gambling. They know they shouldn't be getting an extra credit card and spending all that money. They know these things about themselves, and so you as a man, you as a human being, need to know yourself and watch your choices and make proper choices so you can gain your own self-respect and your own freedom in the future. And speaking of freedom, it's time for us to take another break. We're the Madmen of Masculinity. This is KLDC. We'll be right back.
9 months, man. That's dope.
I'm loving it. I can't wait for next birthday to come around because I'm gonna be celebrating almost a year.
Let's see, you got 3 more months for your birthday, huh?
Yep. Half a
You gonna be
century,
50
man.
years old, man. You gonna be 50
Looking
years
good,
old.
baby. Looking good, but it's
Oh,
pity, baby.
hey,
That
50
beef
years old,
talks helping
man.
my skin, make me look young. I just gotta go to the gym more, eat better.
That beef
I
tallow.
need to get your jazzercise thing going on. Get my jaws
I'm
back.
telling you, you do, man. That's how you tighten it up right there. Mhm. Mhm, mhm. That's how you keep the baby face jawline.
There you go.
That's how
And
you
do
do
you
that,
even like
man.
do you when you get the corn on the cob? Do you even like take the kernels off, or you just bite the whole thing? Now you just got that
I just
jawstring.
bite the whole thing, man. Yeah, I'm like Trap Jaw and He Man.
Don't
Actually,
even
I
peel the
mean,
banana. Just be arr.
it's kind of nasty. I'm eating some chips, and now I got chips all over my jaws aside.
See, choices,
I got
people.
I got chip
Choices.
crumbs. Choices, man. You got to be careful.
You be careful
You
what
got
you
to
do with
choose
your mouth.
wisely. Let me rinse out before I put some more chip
Better rinse.
crumbs.
Oops.
All right, now I
There you
can
go.
do it. I'm good to go. Yeah.
All right.
Yo, yo, yo.
Yo, we back.
Yeah, your boys are back. Mad Men of Masculinity, KLDC, 1220 AM in the Mile High City. That's my
And
radio
for all
voice.
those you wondering what AM is, it's the other side of the dial from FM.
Yeah.
I don't remember if
But of
it's
course, we're on all the podcast platforms, man, wherever you can find podcasts. I found us on our Roku device, man. I forgot, I think it was iHeart or one of the apps on there had podcasts, and if I would
we're on
say the name,
Spotify, iHeartRadio, we're on
all the above.
Apple
Buzzsprout, man,
Podcast.
we on all Apple.
Yeah, we're
I
everywhere.
would say that I would say the name, but if I say her name, she's in my office and she'll listen. But Alexa, you can find us on there too, man.
She knows us.
She knows this
You be listening,
KLDC 20. You can
spying on the
tell her
madman,
to
spying
listen
on
to it.
us.
All the above, man. All the above. So we talking about free. In other words, we ain't hard to find. You can find us everywhere, man. We're
We're
talking
free
about
to
freedom
find.
today,
We're free
man.
to like.
Talking about freedom, and one of the things I learned in terms of freedom, the less freedom you have, the more you got to be willing to die for the freedom you want.
Mm.
When you are addicted to something, when you are in the depths of a battle for freedom, the greater that battle, the more you got to be willing to die for that thing, for that freedom. And that actually increases your odds to get that freedom. See, a lot of people, if you go into a boxing ring or if you go into like an MMA match or something like that, and if you have the mindset like you're going to have to kill me to win, it's very hard to beat that kind of person. A lot of people have a limit, and it's like I'll only go this far. But if you have a mindset like I'll die before I quit, that's the whole David Goggins thing, the whole Navy SEALs thing, whatever. It's like I'm gonna push it, and you got to be willing to go farther than me, or farther, or at least as far as I'm willing to go. And if I'm willing to go until I die, that's a pretty that's a pretty hard fight to win against somebody. And so if you don't have freedom, and like I said, especially if life is dark and if you're, for example, addicted to something, or just want to get free from something or a certain thing, you got to have the mindset that's radical, man. You got to be willing to say, you know what, I'll die before I quit. And then something happens in your spirit, man, and it breaks wide open. And that's when daylight comes through. But you got to be willing to get to that point a lot of times before you see the freedom that you want in life.
Yeah, that's what a lot of us as men are lacking nowadays is that willingness to die on our cross, to die on our sword, to that we don't have those things for a lot of us that we're willing to die for. We don't have that purpose, that passion. A lot of the psyop stuff about feminism and the nice guy syndrome and destroying the families and things. A lot of that's taken away what we would consider our right to live, our passion, our we don't have that family that family unit that we would die for, those children that we would die for. A lot of stuff's getting taken away from us, and so we have to generate that now almost on our own. And a lot of times we got to get around to other guys to kind of follow that passion. As guys, we get together and we build that energy. It's that synergy of masculinity and passion and purpose. And if you're in a dark hole and you want freedom, find somebody who looks free to you. Find somebody who's doing something you want to do and follow them. Ask them to be your mentor or just emulate them. You know, Imitation is the greatest form of flattery because you're doing something that somebody else is doing that you emulate, that you want to do, you want to be like. So, sometimes you got to fake it till you make it. But if you're not where you want to be, you have every choice and every power and every opportunity to get where you want to be. You're just going to have to kill the old you. And that's part of that. What
Mhm.
Kirk's talking about, you got to be ready to die. You've got to kill the old you, which means you got to get rid of your friends that they're dragging you down. You got to, especially if you're dealing with addiction. If you don't want to drink anymore, you don't want to do drugs anymore, you got to get rid of those friends that are doing that. Bless them, give them the old good Southern, bless your heart. I'm out. I'm going out the door. You got to kill the old you to make the new you. And that's where the freedom comes in because you are the captain of your ship. You're leading that dog sled. You're the one in control. You got your hand on the trigger. This is down to your choices of what you want to do with it.
I'll man, this is a pretty this takes it down a pretty deep path here, a pretty deep rabbit hole. But um, I wonder if the agenda to feminize men and to masculinize women is has something to do with you know has something to do with uh, men not really having purpose, something to die for. If you think about it as a guy, like what are you willing to die for? I mean, we need to look in the mirror sometimes and say, what am I willing to die for? Is there anything I'm willing to die for? History at times will put us in those situations, when we're at war with other countries, when we send off, tens or if not hundreds of thousands of our men to go off. Would you die for your country, for your freedom? A lot of men be like, no, no, thank you. Would you die for the freedom of your family? A lot of men would be like, no, no, thank you. If somebody bust into my house, would I be willing to die to protect, me and mine? You know, I don't know if that's part of our culture these days where we're willing to sacrifice as men. and now in the agenda though to masculinize women is like the whole mama bear. I'm willing to die for my kids and all this other stuff, and it's like no, us as men, man, we should be so purpose driven, and we should have such deep conviction for a lot of things, freedom being one of them, where we are willing to die for that thing, man. And as a country, are the freedoms that we have, you know, holidays where we celebrate freedom. We also have holidays who have sacrificed themselves, or paid the ultimate price for our freedom. And so, as a culture, I don't know if it's a man thing anymore to say, man, I would die for that purpose or that cause or whatever that thing is.
Well, I mean, we just came through another 4th of July. It's all about freedom, it's all about independence. And you think about those guys, the founding fathers, they were all in like their late 20s, early 30s. I mean, you think about guys nowadays in their 20s and 30s, like would give up their property, their land, would threaten all those things, like for freedom, to fight a war against another country so that we can be religiously free, financially free, so we can be out of, from under the boot of tyranny. Now we're, I think, part of the entertainment and ease of, you know purchasing, ease of consumption nowadays is to soften men up. Most of us don't have that conviction, we don't have that fire, we're not willing to die for anything because we don't see that in our culture anymore. And then you get all this, with the divorce rates and men not having a family to want to fight for, and then being afraid to get married, being afraid to have a family because all that might be taken away. So many things are up against men nowadays. But I love that you brought up Invictus, because that just proves the point that your freedom is your mindset. Your freedom is your heart and your soul. It's not about what's going on around you. You choose whether you want to be free. You choose whether your mind is free. You choose whether your heart is free. But that choice a lot of times comes with the self-respect, but also comes with the responsibility and owning your choices. And so many of us don't even think about our choices until, whoops, now I'm in trouble. We don't think about what we're doing the next moment because, oh, I'm just in the moment. I'm just doing a thing, or we're reactionary. Most men nowadays are so reactionary, they don't realize they're making a bad choice till it's way too late. You got to be willing to get that, learn some Bushido, get the mind of the samurai, and learn how to analyze your choices as you're making them, learning how to look beyond. I mean, having an infinity mindset. I just read Simon Sinek's The Infinity Mindset. And he's like, there's so many of us have a finite mindset. This one guy who looked at me crossways, now I'm in prison for 20 years for killing that guy because he looked at me funny and said something, versus, yeah, he's looking at me funny, but I don't have time for that. It's not that important. I got a life, I got a family, I got things that are more important in the future. So I'm gonna focus on my future. Our personal responsibility leads to our personal freedom.
Freedom is always going to cost something. Freedom
Mhm.
ain't never free. Freedom is going, and the ultimate freedom, the highest forms of freedom, normally are going to cost a life, at least one. Like somebody's got to make an ultimate sacrifice for somebody else's freedom, and whatever that journey look like. And yeah, we can't expect to have freedoms without the price being paid by somebody at some point, somewhere. And and in order for us as men to have the level of freedom that we want to have, we got to recognize that either somebody else or we are going to make that sacrifice. We're gonna have to pay the price for that freedom. Um, which is ironic because America is the most incarcerated country in the world. I mean,
Yep.
we value freedom as a country as one of the pillars of kind of who we are identity wise, but at the same time, we have more incarcerated individuals per capita than any other country in the world by far.
Yep.
So in a place where we value freedom, we actually lock up more people per capita than anybody else. I don't know what to make
Yeah.
of that.
Freedom, for especially here in the States, has become a buzzword. We're all about freedom, but then we don't look at our choices. We don't look at who's making choices for us. We're not paying attention to those in power, quote unquote, the ones that are actually deciding for us. We've gotten so used to being just consumers and not the masters of our fate, not the ones responsible for our fate. We don't Most of us don't even know how to grow our own food. Most guys nowadays, they don't know how to hunt. So, like, if the grocery store is shut down, what would you do? Are you a slave to that? I mean, there's so many levels to this when it comes to a man's freedom. Are you able to provide for your family if everything else falls to pieces? And
Yeah.
then not only provide as far as materially and financially, or go hunt them a deer and feed them. Can you provide for your mental freedom? Can you provide for the freedom of your heart and your soul? So many of us are so captivated by the blinking lights and all the screens and all the doom scroll and all the TikToks and things. Those are the things that are taking away our freedom. Our attention, a lot of times our attention is our freedom, but that's being drawn in 100 different ways. How are you how is your freedom and your attention being monetized? And how can you take that back?
Yeah. What we got to ask the question: what does it mean, and what am I willing to invest in whatever it is the freedom I want to experience, or those around me want to experience or need to experience? And I'm telling you, man, like I said, I don't know, culturally speaking, we got to get back to the place as men where we're willing to stand on something. I don't have my glasses on. Can you read that?
Oh yeah. He's a powerful discussion. So many men don't even realize they're living in a cage, so that society built for them. And
Mm,
CP videos saying the episode made me reflecting on my own definition of freedom. It's not money or status, it's
yeah.
peace. And amen to that, because
Mm,
peace is, you talk about freedom of
ooh,
heart, freedom of mind. And
mm.
once again, it's time for us to take ourselves a freedom break. We are the Madmen of Masculinity. You are listening to KLDC, and we'll be right back. So for our new viewers just tuning
Dude,
in, we're actually recording the audio for our radio show. So we're doing actual station breaks right now. So this is sometimes where the best stuff comes in, because this is not FCC regulated. You were going to say?
yeah. No, I was gonna. I mean, I don't even know. I mean, those two people that chimed in. Again, if you comment on the Mad Men Masculinity page on Facebook, or YouTube, or where they're
YouTube.
streaming live, if you comment, we can see the comments, and we'll put them up on the screen like the last two we just
Make
had.
you
And those are
famous.
pretty deep, man. We'll
Yep.
definitely make you famous. Those two are pretty deep, man. I mean, that's you know, like I said, in a country, in a society that values freedom, man, there's so many things that are meant to trap us. There's so many things that are meant to hold us and to trap us as men specifically, man. Of if you can trap the men in a society, if you can suppress, if you can lock down or lock up, the men, then you have the steering wheel of a society, man, because the society thrives or doesn't based on the health of the men in that society. This is what it is.
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
you can look across the world and see that culturally.
oh yeah, I mean, 90% of infrastructure is run by men. The lights, the water, the power, I mean, the transportation, it's all run by men. And if you can take the legs out and the strength out and the heart out of men, then you lead them around by the nose, and then you can do what you want. But when men decide that they want to be free mentally, physically, emotionally, financially, that's yeah,
Yeah.
that's some fire right there.
Ooh.
You ready to come
Yeah, we're
back from
gonna
this
come
break?
back on that one. Yeah, we're gonna come back on that one.
All right. Yes, sir. We back.
That's right. We coming down the home stretch, fourth quarter time. We coming to the last lap of the mile, doing a 4 minute mile here, and this is the
Is
fourth
it the
minute,
fourth quarter already?
fourth
Man, that
lap of
goes
the
by so
mile.
fast.
I'm
Wow.
telling you, man, it is what it is.
Getting deep up in here.
A couple of our listeners kind of commented in, and we popped them up on the screen, and it brought us into the whole idea of, man, and I'm not ashamed to say that, you know, that men have a whole lot to do with the freedom or lack thereof in a culture. Um,
Amen.
if you look at how many Medal of Honor winners there have been in our country's history, there's been one female. Um, if you look at the main sacrifice, if you look at a household, if you can take out the man in a household in one way or another, whether you incarcerate him or addict him or cage him or something like that, then you have, for lack of a better term, you have the steering wheel of a household. You have the main driver, the main protector, the main leader of any kind of household. And so culturally, again, if you look at our society, To be able to lock down men, man, it's to get us out of our rightful place as kings, as leaders, as purpose builders and purpose drivers. That takes away the freedom of a culture, the freedom of a society, man. And so I'm not surprised that there's not an agenda to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I keep seeing things popping up now all over TikTok and social media about, the feminist movement has became a psyop. And it's all about separating the family and, having the government raise the kids in the schools because the moms have to work now and the husbands aren't in the home to be the protector and provider. And it's the whole divide and conquer thing. I mean, they mastered it over the years. Now they're just getting better at it. Now they don't even have to come at us physically. Now they just put something on the screen or they influence us with shiny pictures and flashing lights and pretty words and then we go, "Oh yeah, I'll buy into that." And for so many men nowadays, especially when it comes to their own personal freedom, their freedom of their soul, their passion, their purpose, it's being taken away by the flashing lights, being taken away by influence because they don't have the sovereignty of their own mind. Their mind's being taken away. Like, I mean, to your point of even addiction, like pornography and stuff takes away the sovereignty of a man. Alcohol,
Mhm.
drugs takes away the sovereignty of his mind and his control over his future. And so we as men need to come together. And that's why we do the show. That's why we do the men's summit. That's why we do all this work to try to get men together so they can gain their own freedom and sovereignty again, so we can have a stronger nation. We can have a stronger world. But that freedom starts with you. So every man, you need to look in the mirror, take onus of what your choice is and decide, do you want to be free or do you want to be comfortable and happy? Fat and
Mhm.
happy is a choice, but free and strong is also a choice, but they have different consequences.
Yeah. When men are in their rightful place as leaders, when we are living in our kingship of who we are, women are better, more healthy, more safe. Kids are better, more healthy, more safe. You look at the statistics of, kids that grow up without a man in the home. I mean, it's not good. If you look at again, you don't have men harming women when they're living in their fullest level of freedom, and this is not an excuse for them to be out. I'm not talking about victimhood. I'm encouraging men to seek that place of, I'm calling it kingship, meaning an identity of a leader. But even more so than that, because a king eats first, but a leader eats last, right? So when we're in that position, then everybody's better. I mean, everybody, communities, neighborhoods, workplaces, churches, grocery stores. I mean, every place is safer when men are in the right place. And so when men pursue freedom and when we're living our freedom, which again is going to cost you something, and it's going to probably cost you some level of discipline. It's probably going to be lonely at times because you're not going to be doing what everybody else is doing. When that alarm clock goes off and you got to get up and go make the donuts or go make the donuts disappear in your waistline, whatever it is, I mean, it's going to cost you something, man. But when we live in that uh, fullest form of who we are as men, everybody wins, period. Everybody wins. If it wasn't for good men storming the beaches of Normandy, you know, we wouldn't have had a chance. I mean, you can go on and on and on, but my point I'm trying to make right now is for us men to value that and to step into that, man, it's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, freedom, like you said, is going to cost you something. Time, money, energy could cost you the instant gratification of that donut or the ice cream in the fridge. Could cost you sleeping 8 hours because you got to get up after 6 so you can get that run in and go to the gym. Freedom costs something, but the payoff is so much better than being fat, happy, and content on the couch. And that's what they want. They gave us we
Mhm.
got 8,000 channels on the TV with all these different
Mhm.
shows, but if you take it a step back, they're all the same shows. It's just recycled with different faces. They ain't got no new stories. Go out and create your own story. It's time for us as men to start getting out there and creating our own story. Go do something. Go for a walk. Go hunt. Go camp. Get out in nature. I mean, I love the 3 day effect. I'm so happy I'm back in the mountains because all I got to do is go out in my backyard. Nature's right there. I can sit there and connect with nature. I can get grounded. I can find my own freedom in my thoughts and my heart. What I found in the city was a lot of distraction, a lot of pulling of my attention. Our attention has been monetized so much nowadays, especially as men. I mean, sex sells. We all like a nice booty. We like that nice rack, and that pulls our attention, and that takes away our freedom. But we don't realize it. We don't realize that incrementally our freedoms be taken away through our attention, through our wallets, through our time and our energy. So as men, we need to get around other men and start. You don't have to go back to caveman, but I mean, get a little more manly, get a little more nature in your life, get a little more outdoorsy, do something, but get off the couch, put the Funyuns down and the Fritos away, get with some other guys. I mean, Kirk and I like to go play golf once a week if we can make it happen. And we ain't good. We're getting better, but we're out in nature. We're doing something. We're off the couch. And that's all we want for you guys is to regain your freedom. And that starts with self-responsibility and choices. Make the right choices for you, because that has such a domino effect. You make right choices for you, then your family's happier, your woman's happier, your kids happier, your job's better, your neighborhood's better, the world's better. I mean, every man making better choices for himself, regaining his own freedom is better for the world.
Our culture is set up for us to be fat, dumb, and lazy, to be sitting on the couch eating flaming hot Cheetos and watching reality TV. And the more we live like that as a culture, the more women become monetized, which means either something to be purchased or consumed, or to be the consumers of our society, to spend money to buy stuff. It costs way more to be a woman than it does to be a guy in terms of products and in terms of this and that and all that kind of stuff. So it's monetizing women. It's not the guy in the household that gets a delivery at the door every day. It's just not. But and the other side of that is monetizing women and distracting men. All of that the fat, dumb, and lazy effect. It's a distraction for men. It's to get us to consume stuff. If we can consume, then we're distracted. And the more we consume, the more we gain an appetite. And the more we gain an appetite, the more we consume. And that becomes a cycle. And both of those cycles for men and women, and in this case, we're talking about men primarily, those become, anti-freedom cycles, that is hamster wheels that is really hard to get off of. When we get to the point of consuming, especially consuming to excess, man, it's really hard to get off of that cycle, and that's when you don't experience any kind of freedom at all. So we got to be more intentional, especially as men. We got to be more intentional to break these cycles, man. To say, you know what, not today, Satan. Nope, it ain't happening. Nah, I'm going my way. I'm gonna do my thing. I'm living on purpose. I'm living with a vision, and I'm living with freedom being the target of the bullseye that I'm aiming for.
Yeah, I mean, freedom comes down to the clarity of your choices, the clarity of your mind. And for a lot of us, especially nowadays, we men, we need to really get into some kind of personal development, some kind of therapy. We need to get into something to retrain our brains, because my new book's coming out in a couple months, Face the Devil in You. And it's all about facing those inner child demons, those shadows, those voices in your head. All those negative voices in your head comes from a small part of you that was damaged or traumatized as a younger child and has been exiled away. And when we as men want to have our freedom back, we have to address the man in the mirror. We have to address ourselves. We have to address that small inner child within us that was traumatized, and we shoved it away because we didn't know how to deal with it. Well, we're grown now. You're a man now. It's time for you to take ownership and responsibility of all your thoughts and choices. And a lot of times, if you follow your thoughts down that rabbit hole, you will come face to face with that small inner child, that part of you that got pushed out because it didn't have the skills, the tools, wisdom, the knowledge to make the proper choices, to have the responsibility in that moment. When you're 4, 5, 6 years old and you're presented with adult choices, you don't have the tools for that. You do the best you can. And so many of us are 8-year-olds run around in adult bodies because we haven't addressed that traumatized 8-year-old within us. And it's that 8-year-old that's creating those negative thought patterns, is creating those addictive patterns, is creating those things in your life that you're fighting against. You keep saying to yourself, and I was the king of this for 20 years. Why can't I do better? I want to do better. I keep thinking about doing better. I just can't do better because I didn't address the core problem, which was the inner child, that shadow side. And most of us men need to address and accept and own that shadow side. If you're a real man, you have the capacity for violence. You have the capacity to murder somebody, to kill somebody else. It's within us. But if you don't accept that and you say, no, I'm peaceful. I'm a monk now. I'm peaceful. I don't do violence. well, you're taking away half of your power. You're taking away half of what makes you a man. And we have to accept all sides of us. You got to be a whole man. You got to know that I have that tiger under control. I got that dragon in my closet under control, and I only use him for good. Because if you don't have him under control, he's gonna come out sideways and do bad. So it's totally up to you. Your freedom is your responsibility.
Based off what you just said, super quick, I spent a lot of my life, man, being a slave to the sins of the father. Meaning, when I look down and I see my father's tombstone with my name on it, I was held down. That was like a brick holding down my balloon, man. I was just stuck in that. Like, man, I can't get past that. I can't get past that. And then I had to get to the point in life where I had to let that go. I had to let the dead man die. I had to let him go on, and I had to say, wait a minute, I'm not bound to that. I'm not trapped in that. This is the Kurgan Samuel that was established in 1973. I'm not him, and I don't have to be stuck to that glass ceiling. And I had to choose freedom and stop blaming. And so I get exactly what you're saying, man. And so I'm all about it. Freedom has got to be important. And sometimes we got to confront some dark things. Sometimes we got to go into some shadow places. Sometimes we got to cross some old rickety bridges to get to the promised land that we want to get to.
Yeah, I mean, to quote Joseph Campbell, the cave you fear to enter is where your treasure lies. So, men, we got your back. We're here for you. We'll help you into the cave. We'll help you out of the cave. But you have the power and you have the responsibility to generate your own freedom. We love you. We hope the best for you. Make sure you like and subscribe. Tell your friends and catch us on TikTok. We'll be chopping this up and putting out little short videos. But till next time, we're the Mad Men. We love you. We are out.